Hey guys, we're here for PayPal Monthly with my friend, my guest, TJ. How you doing?
I'm well, Roy. How are you? Happy New Year, my man.
Happy New Year! Yeah, New Year, new PayPal. Well, maybe not. We'll see. But
New
how's it
Year,
going so
New
far?
Year, new me, baby.
Yeah. It's been not a boring New Year for sure. Like the stocks are, it's every day that there's something new happening, and very, very volatile right now. Even PayPal is joining in some of that volatility. So, yeah. Anything new with you going on, TJ?
A few things, man. I made some really hard decisions towards the end of 24, and just really wanted to clean up the portfolio. And I always use this hamburger stand analogy. And it's like, what kind of hamburger stand do I have? What is the main function? And mine's always twofold. It's like I want to create cash flow. I feel like my premiums based on the stocks that I deal with, the underlyings, they can generate about 25% a year. So when I say 25% a year and annualized returns, people are like, get out of here. And I'm like, dude, do the math. Go do the math on Riot, go do the math on the SoFis and the Teslas of the world. You sell
Yeah.
cash care puts and cover calls on those, you look up and you can generate 25% a year in annual returns on premiums. Now the stocks crash 25 or 30%. Well, that's a wash, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about cash flow. So I
Mhm.
try to generate about 25% a year in cash flow off the portfolio. So right now the portfolio is sitting at about 11 million or so going in to the new year. So it's a lofty goal, right? I was like, oh shoot, man.
It is.
I was like, what? I gotta do like 3 million, so I was like stressed out. So I started really taking an inventory of the stocks that were in the portfolio. And I was like, dude, if you're not gonna yield enough premium via covered calls, you might not make the cut. So I might have to reallocate some funds and maybe go long, via long calls versus holding shares because it might not be the most capital efficient thing for my strategy. So made a lot
Yeah.
of tough decisions. It was tough that I pissed off a lot of people in different asset classes, and it is what it is, man. So I'm here to confess my sins to all of y'all today. We're gonna pretend we're Catholic, Remember when the people you go into the little confession booth?
Yeah.
My favorite ticker is my portfolio.
All right. And PayPal is one of your larger positions.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And so we wanted to give you and give everybody an update of PayPal and this sort of thing. We do this about once a month. This is a little bit less than a month since it's been, but you hit me up, and we're not doing bootleg weekly tonight. So I was like, hey, it's a good time to get reviewed on PayPal before earnings here in late January.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe things will change. You'll add more. Maybe you'll be like, hey, I'm good where it's at. It was a good year. It wasn't a great year over the last year for the stock. I thought the business did pretty well. But so I guess we'll start off with this. I know that you don't follow like PayPal really intimately, read every single letter, every announcement, but are there any like major headings or major themes or things that you've heard about PayPal recently that are in the news that you wanted to hear more on?
Yeah, so I guess I always like to go macro and then micro, right? Jesse's micro to macro. I want to go
Yeah.
big to small. So I think the biggest thing with PayPal over the last 18 months was they changed the CEO.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a bigger change that can happen in the company, short of maybe, I don't know, potentially delisting or something like that, which obviously PayPal that would not apply to them. So I think Alex Chris took over, felt like a year and a half ago now, something
Oh yeah.
along those lines. So how would you grade Alex? And obviously everybody knows you have a little bit of a resemblance to Alex Chris. So how would you grade the job that he's done? Because I feel like he came in and it was like guns blazing. He was like that new UFC fighter, and he freaking emptied out the tank in the first 30 seconds of the round. And he realized that it's a 5-minute round, and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah. So I don't
I
think
feel like
that.
he kind of overpromised and underdelivered. But
Yeah.
then what he said kind of like manifested and came to fruition, but it was maybe like 90 days after he said it, because there were some things that were like a little bit of a letdown from my perspective. What say you, Roy?
Yeah, so Sagig said that the words that we don't say as PayPal investor very often they shock the world. So Alex, for those that are not familiar, he came over from Intuit. He basically ran half of Intuit. He'd been there for 25 years. Ran the small business segment when They announced him as the incoming CEO. I'm like, I've not really heard of this guy. So I did a lot of research, and a lot of it was, videos and listening to his interviews, seeing things as he's written, seeing things that were said about him. And I'm like, okay, this guy is actually the perfect CEO. And so as far as a job, like one of my favorite measures is cash flow, free cash flow specifically. And so you can see here, since Alex has taken over, so he technically was there, hired in August, but that wasn't a full quarter. So Q4 was his first quarter. And look at the free cash flow for all of these 4 quarters. Do you notice anything versus these under Dan Schulman? It looks a little bit better, doesn't it, over here?
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, Q4, part of this, looks so good because Q2, it was just basically things moving around because of KBR, buy now, pay later loans sold. And so free cash flow is looking substantially better. Active accounts, we'll talk about that a little bit when we look at Q3 earnings, but you can see that inflection point actually happened in Q4 2023, and it's actually increased on the first time in Q3 a year over year. It's not the most important measure, but it's important. Total payment volume keeps climbing. Transaction margin, that was one of those big concerns for bears. Yeah. And you can see it actually bottomed in Q1 2024. It's increasing. I think it will continue to increase. It does offset with some revenue slowdown, and we'll talk about what that means. Net income is not as important as free cash flow, but it's looking decent. It's not looking as good as I'd like it to be. I love this chart too. A little bit of stock crime here, chart crime rather. Well, that makes it worse. So you can just see shares outstanding. This is the opposite of most companies in the market, where they've deleted a little over 6%. I think 6.4, 6.7% from Q3 2024 to Q3 2023. They continue to do more buybacks as well. I think dividends are probably coming at some point in the next couple of years, all at the same time as they've basically maintained their operating expenses flat. I'm not doing like a year over year basis just because it would not show all of what's happening in Q4. So the most important number for me is that free cash flow. And of course, that just looks absolutely gorgeous. And they've been very, very clear on guidance. And so rather than just trying to have to guess and figure out which individual segment is doing what, they don't hide anything. They make it very transparent, very clear. And I like that as an investor. So I think that he started it out, January 1st. It's like, hey, actually, when he landed, he did an assessment over the first month and a half of PayPal. And I think based on his comments, public comments, it seemed like PayPal was in a worse shape than he thought. And as far as myself as an investor, same. It's like, I thought Dan Schulman didn't do a great job, but things were okay. And the reality is, under the previous CEO, they did massive acquisitions. One of their more recent ones was Honey. You've heard of Honey in the headlines, the news at all?
I thought it was a movie that Jessica Alba did back in the day, but apparently there's like a lawsuit attached to it in PayPal that they acquired a company and there was like some crap going on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they acquired it, I believe it was back in 2019 for $4 billion. And they basically, what they do is they automatically help you find discounts. It works pretty well. The technology does. Of course, there's a major lawsuit, but we'll go to Honey in just a bit. But basically, Schulman would acquire companies and would just let them run and not really integrate them well into the PayPal system. Honey is actually one of the better integrated, but it was not worth near $4 billion. I was never really that excited about it. If you look at all the like bull cases that I wrote about PayPal, like I didn't mention Honey once just because I'm like, it exists, I guess, but like I wish they had not spent $4 billion on this.
So what does it do? What's the elevator pitch on it?
Oh boy, you're not going to like this. Well, so it's just the way it works is actually really nice. It's not worth what you pay for it. So you install it, and then when you're going to buy something, it's like, oh, let me help you find some coupons. So search online. It says, hey, I found these coupons. I'll apply them automatically. There you go.
So it sweetens the deal. It's Honey.
Yes. Now,
you want to hear something? Y'all want to hear something strange about Honey?
What's that?
Dude, when we order fried chicken, my wife puts honey on her fried chicken. Dude, I don't know what's going on with that, dude.
I would say that that's a lawsuit waiting to happen right there. So just
She,
like what happened with PayPal Honey.
she
So
puts honey on her fried chicken. She says she got it from her dad. Her dad was a truck driver, or maybe his dad was a truck driver, and they were in Memphis, Tennessee. And they would do it in Memphis, Tennessee, and they brought it down to the Rio Grande Valley. There's like a lot of people that put honey in fried chicken now down here. So it's this thing like spread like wildfire. So I was like, dude, this is crazy. So I tried it, and dude, it's like really good. Like honey and fried chicken, dude, it's legit. Anyway,
boy, I mean, I guess it's one of those things you can't knock until you try.
Dude, it's good. Dude, Roy, like I'm even making a joke, dude. It's good. It's good. Like on spicy fried chicken from Church's, you put a little honey on it, dude. It takes it like to the next level.
Yeah, I guess it's like chicken and waffle, maybe. So
I can't do that. I don't know that I can do that. But anyway,
yeah,
it's one of those things.
Yeah,
hot and spicy.
So anyway, like Alex Chris gets in, and PayPal is losing active users, and that wasn't as bad as it seems. Like that's that Bears were making a lot of that, and it was like it's not as bad as, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Their margins were going down left and right. Braintree, which is their payment service provider, it was basically engaged in a race to the bottom. I didn't think that they were, but then there was comments by a lot of people in the industry that they were intimating this. And it seems like with what PayPal has done under Alex Chris is they said, you know what? It doesn't make sense to just chase this top line number of revenue and ignore making actual money. Like that's stupid. But that's exactly what the strategy was under Dan Schulman, to get active users at any cost and to grow revenue at any cost, even if it didn't make sense at the bottom line. And there was a little bit of a strategy to that, like adding other value services and maybe get them in the PayPal ecosystem, and they'll start using other products. But it didn't work. They didn't have much of a flywheel at that time, and so Alex Chris has changed that. Instead, they're focusing on driving profitable margin growth, and that's one of the reasons why margins are improving. Although revenue is accelerating a little bit slower, just because where they used to sell some of those Braintree services at like, basically, we're not making any money from this at all. They're like, you know what? Let's make some money. Let's not drive competition down to the point where everybody is losing money, nobody's happy, and it's just a commodity. And instead, we'll offset that with some of the volume. And so, and of course, Alex Chris comes out and says, PayPal had been an innovator a long time ago, but had lost that edge. Really just relied on mergers and acquisitions. Had not done that well at all. Venmo and Braintree were certainly good ones, but that was like a decade ago. And so he's like, okay, we are sitting on this mound of data that we've done very little with. And so most of those first look products that he mentioned in January, late January, the first look products, he said there's 7 of them. He said that we're going to shock the world. He didn't mean like in one day or with one presentation, but over time. People didn't quite understand that, and now he's been a lot more careful with what he says as a result. But we're now seeing at this stage, from when he announced it, we're seeing Fastlane, which drives conversion, checkout conversion. I think it is best in class out of anything else out there, and they're very focused on getting that adopted, and then they'll monetize it later. It's kind of like AIP strategy for Palantir, where they're like, hey, let's take the whole market while we can. And then when people see how good the product actually is, we'll turn around and monetize it. That's what Palantir is doing. And, through much of 2025, comments from the CFO, Jamie Miller, indicates that that's just going to be the case, that they will get some extra volumes from that. Advertising, they have 2 different advertising products that have launched and actually launched.
So real quickly, you said Fastlane.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like I bought this? I went crazy buying this garage gym equipment because it's like new year, new me, and this is the year that I'm finally going to get back to 185 pounds.
Get it, TJ.
And I've been dedicated, dude, like dedicated at it. So I shop SHOP, and it's like a purple icon or something that showed up on the thing, and then I somehow put my Amex on there, and then now I go to PowerTech. Because I keep like adding to this dang thing, right? It's like it's turned into a monster. So then I bought this bench the other day, and I went to PowerTech or whatever, and then I went to the checkout, and then this little shop icon was on there, and then as soon as I clicked it, it auto-populated my info already. Like it already captured it somehow. And it was really convenient for me because I was already on scramble mode for my wallet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why a lot of times I won't go through the purchase because I'm like, dude, you're going to hassle me to go get the wallet and stuff. So you're saying that PayPal has that kind of feature too, where they like lock you in. And once you're in, you're in. Kind of like on Amazon. Like my wife's like a pro, dude. She does things. I guess like her cards are somehow linked because I don't do a lot of shopping, period. But yeah, they have your information locked in, and you just push a button, and you're good to go, or what?
Yeah, so that's that. If you're not logged in, that's a guest checkout conversion feature. Shopify has that. Stripe has that. PayPal has that.
So is that Shopify or no? Like, dude, this is how. That is Shopify.
Okay. Yeah, Shopify using Shop Pay, and that's one of those things that they've done. Usually, Shopify is well, not always, but oftentimes is very, very closely integrated with Stripe, and it's really interesting because there's. I don't think that relationship is broken down, but I've seen over the last 2 quarters a change where Shopify is pushing their guest checkout product and over Stripe's guest checkout product, which seems like it's pretty decent as well. And also, all of a sudden, Shopify says, you know what? They've always used Stripe and some Adyen as well for their payment processing, and not PayPal at all. Like PayPal's offered on it, but they're not doing the back-end processing through Braintree. Well, in August, that changed, and they said, okay, if somebody is checking out using PayPal or they're a PayPal user, we're going to let PayPal actually process that volume. So all of a sudden, as Shopify grows and is successful, PayPal gets a little piece of that. Now, PayPal, I think, has an advantage here in the guest checkout. So Shopify, they have rolled it out beyond their guest checkout product beyond just Shopify, but it's largely just when you're using Shopify at this point. And I don't know how successful it'll be outside of that ecosystem. They just don't have the data outside of Shopify to be able to use that. Versus Stripe, has a lot of data. It seems like the guest checkout conversion is not quite as high as PayPal. And PayPal has, 435 million active users. They have data on almost 1 trillion users. Not all of those are active. And of course, 35 million merchants. And it's very, very global versus where Stripe is. And so they have far more data. And this is one of those products, unlike, Braintree is always going to exist. Stripe is always going to exist. Adyen is always going to exist. Those are the big 3 payment service providers. There's smaller ones as well. Those are really commodities. They're not like a winner take all. And usually the large companies say, you know what? Let me use 2 of these 3, maybe all 3, like Shopify is doing, just for some redundancy, or if something goes wrong with one, they can shift volume on the other. Versus a guest checkout solution, this is actually winner take all. We're really winner take most. Because if you have somebody sign up for PayPal's Fastlane, and all of a sudden you have 400 million people using that versus Shopify having 10 million and Stripe using 50 million. And the checkout conversion is higher because the data is just better. It's right there with all these merchants, all these vendors for PayPal. Like it's just going to perform better, and other companies are just going to want absolutely a piece of that. And so in August, we saw that flurry of announcements of them partnering with Fiserv, them partnering with Adyen, which is a competitor, with their guest checkout solution. They're like, hey, Adyen wants a piece of this. We want to partner with them. This is a win-win right here, because Adyen doesn't have a product like this. They don't have that double-side data network. They're a great payment service company, but they don't service both merchants and consumers like PayPal. So, and of course, the Shopify news and several others too. Amazon, monetization of Venmo. There was just a flurry of information that came out in August. So that's mostly the good news. Is all these products and things that Alex has been building up and towards, they're launching. Some are in like the pilot stage, like some of the Venmo products. The last one that was mentioned is almost an add-on for First Look. That's in the pilot stage still. Advertising platform has been launched. I haven't seen Smart Receipts yet, but we've seen advanced offers. And by the way, do you know who is running the advertising platform for PayPal?
No idea.
So let me pull him up. This is all right.
Dude, I'm wondering too. Can you look at the last comment? He's saying Adyen. Is that how you spell Adyen or no?
Adyen.
Okay, because I was about to Google it.
Yeah. ADJ is the ticker because they're an international company in the Netherlands. But yeah, they're an excellent payment service provider. Braintree was always like out of the three was typically regarded as good, but not as good as Adyen or Stripe. And I think a lot of that's changed. Like they've really implemented a lot of technology into the PayPal app, into Braintree as well as their wallet product. So I stopped presenting. So let me throw this up. I've done a whole separate video on this too. But Dr. Mark Grather, and that name may not ring a bell, but let me. Oh, we'll ignore that. Let me just look at. There we go. Experience. So he's been with PayPal, just 9 months now. They actually ended up launching the advertising platform a little earlier than expected, and then previously, let's see. Got to do it on a bit. He was with Uber. And right here, I oversee Uber's advertising business, which includes all offerings to help merchants. He was the guy that they brought in to launch Uber's advertising platform. And so that now has as of Q3 results for Uber, went from nothing 2 years ago to a $1 billion run rate for Uber, from nothing to $1 billion.
Nice.
Uber's a little bit different advertising play than PayPal, but PayPal, the mounds of data that they have, what they're able to do with it, I think is actually going to be more as far as a potential. I think it might take just a little bit longer to execute, but I think around 2.5 years from now, we'll see a similar amount of very, very high margin revenue coming to PayPal. That's at least $1 billion at that point for an annual run rate. Now, previously, he also directed Amazon advertising, and so he's helping build that up from the ground up. He actually, I believe, ended up booking their first client ever for Amazon when they didn't have an advertising platform. And the funny thing is, both times, although a little bit less with Amazon and Uber, when they were launching these, at least with Uber, they're like, oh, this is kind of interesting because Dr. Mark Grather has been successful before. But, it seems like it's a little bit late in this advertising race. And there's all these other retailers that are advertising, and there are. But they were wildly successful. Amazon, when it was announced that they were doing advertising, some people were excited about it. Most people were like, it could be a nice thing. Amazon generates so much cash from what they're able to do on this side. They actually lead all of retail advertising, and they have like more than 50%. And he's been involved with these two massive successful winners, and he's brought some of his key people over from Uber. It's really tough with the quality of data, with the quantity of data, and with the quality of these hires to imagine PayPal not just being successful, but wildly successful with these products. Especially as easy as it is to integrate that with the data they have. So they have advanced offers, which are a more traditional form of advertisement that if a merchant wants to use it, they can. It does not cost them a single cent unless the sale is actually generated. So that's a little differentiation there. And then they have the smart receipts, which is kind of completes the flywheel because on the back end, after someone has purchased a set of skis, for instance, the PayPal will look at their data. They use AI and machine learning. And they're like, hey, this person would really benefit from, because we see other consumers doing this too, buying this awesome set of ski poles or a ski mask. Here you go. Here's a coupon. You can use it within the next 2 weeks. Just click this button at the bottom of your receipt. 40-something% of PayPal users open their receipts. I'm not one of those. I don't get it, but people do that for some reason. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, we've got this easy advertising venue that doesn't cost them a whole lot of money to develop. It's there to be used.
I think the biggest advantage that PayPal has is the trust. The trust. Like I have a little wine tour business, and a lot of customers offer to pay with other like Cash App and that kind of thing. And Cash App is kind of my go-to move from peer to peer.
Yeah.
And dude, I only take PayPal though for the wine tour because if there's an issue, I know I'm good with PayPal. And with Cash App, to try to get anybody on the phone over there, bro, it's just tough. Because I played that game as a business owner. And I like the fact that I've got my business line, that I've got my customer support as a business owner. And then, you have your customer support as a consumer. And it's just, there's just a level of trust there that I think PayPal's built over the years.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so people are asking for Square versus or Block, whatever the hell the company's called now,
yeah.
versus PayPal. The reason that I've always been a big fan of PayPal is because of the profitability factor and the fact that they're buying back the float. Those are the two things that appeal to me the most. You want to throw in a little cheesy dividend there, I think there's a better use of capital. I think when you start doing a dividend and you're kind of stuck between a value and growth company stage, I think that's kind of what happened to PayPal. I think you're just running out of ideas. Like whenever you're gonna throw in a little, especially if it's an Nvidia type dividend, like I mean that what are you gonna do with that dividend?
Oh yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's just like it's just silly. It's just to attract that investor. What are you gonna do with it?
it's just there so people that will only buy dividend stocks will buy Nvidia because they're like, hey, Nvidia, I can do that. I don't have to break my rules. But Block. So I own $100 worth of Block because I have to for our SoFi weekly bet through the year.
I saw that,
And I'm not excited about that. But I think the company is good. A big key, and you started off with Alex Chris, is leadership and culture. PayPal actually had worse culture than I expected because of their previous leadership that was just lackluster, and yet they were able to grow despite having really mediocre leadership. Block is also in the same stage where I know Dorsey is the founder. He's a great startup guy. He's a great products guy. He is not a great CEO of a company at this stage, just like he wasn't for Twitter. And I know that they're a little bit different, and there's reasons and excuses you can look at. But I see a lot of the same issues that Dan Schulman had and Dorsey had. He has this core group of people that really, really love him, and he's easy to work with. He's friendly. He's generous. It's great. Probably pays people too much. But then when he is not there, driving people, to work, then nothing gets done or very little gets done. The focus was not really on the bottom line. It was on the top line and on flashy numbers. I see that with Block. And then you see Dan Schulman having a lot of questionable acquisitions. Honey is maybe not even close to one of the most questionable ones, but a lot of acquisitions, and that was their strategy. And you can see that like with Tidal. I think Afterpay was actually fine. They paid too much, but they paid with stock, so that's fine. And it made sense for the ecosystem. And then doing weird things like, hey, let's get into Bitcoin miners. It's like, I don't love that. And Dan Schulman had a similar moment. Thankfully, he was stopped, I think, by an activist investor where he's like, hey, maybe let's buy Pinterest. It's like, what are you doing? Like, I can see how it can kind of work, but oh my goodness, like you've lost the vision at some point and you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And so they're no longer in that situation with Alex Chris. He has a very clear way of pushing PayPal. Now, before we go further on the good stuff, and there's a lot of good, and there's some fairly recent stuff that I haven't even posted yet. I do want to talk about Honey. I've made separate videos, and we talked about it just a little bit. But so the issue, if you're not too familiar, is back in 2018, maybe 2017.
Like there was something about discrimination or something. That's all I know about.
So there's two separate lawsuits. There's one that is a very, very minor one. PayPal did a lot of DEI type stuff under Dan Schulman. And it seems like because of the emphasis on diversity that they were actually maybe allegedly practicing racism as far as like not letting, I think in this case, Asiatic folks that were small businesses getting loans from their PayPal venture team. If that's the case, I hope that they pay a very, very stiff fine, even as an investor. That's sick and wrong. And I'm glad that I'm seeing headline after headline of people like today was one of those McDonald's where they're backing away from a lot of their DEI stuff. It's like, I understand diversity is important, inclusion is important, but if I don't know, I don't want to get too much into the politics stuff, but the way that PayPal handled it was, I think, atrocious. And so I'm glad that that's at least being brought to light, and they'll have to consider like, do we really want to be this kind of company that we were under Dan Schulman? We'll see. But the bigger headline lawsuit is the Honey lawsuit. So what happened is back in, even before PayPal owned Honey, that Honey would partner with all these creators, content creators, and they'd say, hey, here's this great coupon app, use it. It'll help save you money. It'll always find the coupon for you. And what they didn't realize that was happening, and I think this is pretty shady, honestly, is so you would go like maybe a creator would have like their setup and they'd be like, hey, buy this HyperX microphone, and if you go here, you'll get 5% off. And so you'll click their link. And so usually the way this would work is without Honey, you'd click the link, you'd buy the microphone, the creator would get some sort of revenue from it. Maybe they get $25 or a certain percent, and they'd be happy. The consumer is happy. Great. With Honey installed, they'd click the link, they'd buy the microphone, they would get that discount. Honey then would automatically search for any coupon codes, would sometimes find something, but oftentimes not find anything at all and say, well, you already had the best discount. Good job. And then would take their own referral code and paste it over the creators. So the creator would get very little or usually nothing. And Honey, and now PayPal, would get all of that referral money from doing basically nothing. Now, it makes sense if they find you a better discount that they get that referral code. But so this is one of a couple of reasons, but that's really the biggest one why there's a lot of content creators, including like Legal Eagle is actually the one that launched the class action suit against PayPal. And frankly, I don't know if they have a case or not. I know on the consumer side there were some concerns as well, but just as for some verbiage on the actual sign up for Honey, I think that they're completely covered there. The way that these class action lawsuits usually work is it takes 2 to 5 years on average for them to be either settled or finalized. I think most likely PayPal will maybe give them a small settlement. I don't think this is going to be like 2 billion or 5 billion or 10 billion or something like that. But it'll be, I don't know, 200 million or something. It's not small, but PayPal, generates by that point probably $7, $8, $9 billion in the year. So it'll be a little slap in the wrist. But the other thing is like Honey, their entire revenue when PayPal acquired them was like 300 million per year.
Oh wow!
Ridiculous overpay of $4 billion, I expect it's actually less now. Now, there's also, I think Chrome had noted that 2 million people have uninstalled Honey since the creators basically came out with this. My only real fear with this was that credibility, that reputation of PayPal. Like it's not a great thing that this happens, but and they do brand it PayPal Honey. But almost every single content creator is not saying, hey, let's boycott PayPal. Let's stop using them. I've actually watched some videos where they talk about Honey and they're really upset at what happened. And then somebody says, hey, boycott Honey. They're like, or boycott PayPal. They're like, no, absolutely not. PayPal is useful. There's some people that only use PayPal. It works. It's well integrated. It protects. Right. We would never get rid of that. But Honey, yeah, we hate that garbage. Get rid of it. So I don't think that there's going to be any lasting damage to PayPal. Like Honey will take a hit. Maybe they'll divest from it. But I've never been really excited about that. But I think that that's going to fade from the headlines. There are supposed to be 2 other videos coming out by the guy that did the investigation. They're very good videos, worth watching, even though it's not like a great thing as a PayPal investor. But I mean, I think the guy raises a good point. Mostly, he calls it a scam. I don't think that's the right word, but swindle maybe, and that's not a great word either. There's 2 more videos coming out, so we'll have to see what happens. But I think once those videos are launched, it just kind of fades out of the limelight. And then maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, you hear about a settlement. So that's like the most bearish thing on PayPal recently. If you want to hear some good news, though, that hasn't happened quite yet, I'll show you a couple of different things. So one of the bigger ones is the Cyber 5. Did you do any Black Friday, Cyber Monday shopping, TJ?
The wife does all the shopping, Roy. Come on.
Always shopping. Okay. Well, here, let me show you how PayPal did. They, under Dan Schulman, like very rarely even said how they did it all. And Alex Chris comes out and he's like, yeah, let's change that. And so they ended up launching their Cyber Monday. Let me see which is which. Yeah, this is 2023. So in 2023, he posted this. This is 2 years now, a little over a year ago. 400 million transactions. This is from Cyber Monday. Put 8 million back in the consumer's hands with cash back and savings. It was the largest shopping day of the year with 5.8 billion and total payment volume and 87 million of transactions. versus where we are here. And I saw this all through December, not every single day, but PayPal is usually fourth in the App Store as far as free finance apps, and it was consistently number one or number two more days than not from actually the week before Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas, which is very, very good. People are installing it. I think active users are actually going to go up quite a bit. Part of that is that Pay Everywhere that they're doing with Will Ferrell, the omni-channel support. I've been seeing some traction with that. Pay with Venmo, that's also gotten a lot of transaction. They've done a lot of marketing on that. So they mentioned Cyber Monday was their biggest day of the year with 7 billion in payments processed, over 70 million transactions at small and mid-sized businesses, powered double-digit growth in buy now, pay later transactions compared to Cyber 5 last year, and of course increased Pay with Venmo transactions by double digits. So overall, that's a 19% increase year over year in total payment volume on Cyber Monday. And remember, margins have been improving recently. So this isn't just hey, you got a flashy headline number and that's it. Oh, too bad that their margins are eroding. No, this is legit. This is awesome. And this will factor into Q4. So that's part of the reason why, of course, PayPal's not, it's actually, I think, a little bit less than this because it was a terrible day on the market today. But, they absolutely killed it.
Awesome. Well, Roy, this is the way I like to gauge the temperature. So I'm familiar with 4 or 5 stocks that you follow pretty regularly. So I'd like you to rank them for me as far as conviction on the spot. So we have our beloved SoFi. We've got Robinhood. We've got the 2 Ps, PayPal and Palantir. So I can't think of the 5th one because I'm drawing a blank. So let's just start there. So we got Robinhood, SoFi, and we got the 2 Ps. PayPal and Palantir. Where's Roy ranking those in order of conviction? All things being equal, right? Because they're dealing with their market conditions, they're dealing with their sentiment, they're dealing with their sector. Everybody's dealing with the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
So where's PayPal in that ladder? Where does it fit for you?
So what time frame are you talking about? Like over the next year or over like 5 years?
25. Where is it for you?
2025. Okay. I would probably have SoFi at the top right now. SoFi has phenomenal tailwinds with rate cuts. I know that there's been some question. There's been some question on how many rate cuts are actually going to happen, but we've already had some rate cuts. That's good for their lending. I think with the new administration coming in, that's very, very good for SoFi. Noto himself mentioned that he's not a fan of Trump, but he's like, hey, it's great for our business if he gets elected, and I think it will be. So over the next year, I think SoFi, even though it's already run up a lot from when it was in $7 in change, I thought that from that point through 2025, it would be my number one performer out of every stock that I watch. Period. That's like 50 something names. So far, that's holding up pretty well. We'll have to see. It may end up being like number 3, number 4, but who cares? Like it's even at 15. I think that SoFi gets to 25 pretty easily by the end of the year, which is fantastic. And their lending platform is no joke. Like that's just a phenomenal thing that they've built out. So I'm excited to see what they do there. Number 2 for this year, I'd say Hims. That's one that I know you didn't mention, but Sageg mentioned that too. Hims is positioned really, really well, I think, with the new administration, with Vivek, with JD Vance being very, very open and friendly towards that type of industry. I know RFK Jr., that there's been some concerns with where he falls as far as some regulation, the FDA, but I don't think that's going to hurt Hims very much at all. They're really well positioned, I think, this quarter too to capture a lot of the people like yourself and me that are trying to get in better shape. Some people look to the solution of, hey, let me take, a pill or a shot that'll help me be able to lose some weight or grow some hair or get nicer skin or something like, I don't know. But, they have all those products. They have kind of a unique moat and they're very, very well run. So I would say this year, that would be my number 2. And number 3, I would say for this year, that's tough. Palantir would be last, just because of valuation. That's it. So phenomenal company. They're absolutely killing it. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Palantir at the end. But it's only because of valuation, and we see it kind of dipping down. I still have covered calls that are underwater, not as badly underwater as when it was like 80 something bucks, but I would say for the 1 year time frame, I'm least excited about Palantir, and I'm not adding accordingly. I also have like 50% of my portfolio is in Palantir. So I picked the right time to go basically all in. I'm going to say PayPal over Robinhood for where it's at right now, but it's really close. And I think 5 years out, I'm more excited about Robinhood. Robinhood's a little bit more cyclical. I do think crypto, the bull market might end at some point this next year, probably by Q3, possibly Q4. Because it's cyclical, because a lot of its revenue is from crypto, that'll hurt it versus whatever happens with PayPal. Really, the only kind of scary macro thing for PayPal is tariffs. And even that's not too bad. That'll reaccelerate some inflation. Inflation for PayPal, because they charge a set percent, is not a terrible thing for them as long as the consumer is not under dire stress. And right now, the consumer is fairly healthy. So I would say PayPal just because of their valuation. I think Robinhood is fairly valued, and I say this as someone that's been only buying Robinhood. I've not bought anything else since January 1st. I bought, I think, 3 or 4 different times, just little bits here and there, a couple of different portfolios. But yeah, PayPal is one where in a couple of weeks I'll have a good chunk of money. I'm going to buy a good chunk of PayPal just because where it's at, very cheap valuation. They absolutely print money. I think they're a very, very safe play. We've not even talked about how they're dominating the mobile platform and why that's so important. I think they're having Investor Day February 5th. It's Alex Chris's first one. I won't be there in person. Hadn't gotten an invite, so hint, hint, Alex. Just kidding. No, I think that's going to be a phenomenal thing just to capture Alex Chris's vision. And I also think, although I never get excited about these, but they've been very consistent in maintaining their OpEx expenditures and being careful with that. I expect that we'll probably see another round of small layoffs in late January as well as they continue to be more and more efficient. So yeah, I would say that's number 3 just for this year. I would have a different order if you're looking 5 years out, but
I like it. I like that you were able to wiggle your way around because it is a tough question.
Oh yeah. And Robinhood and PayPal are close. Like I'm not bearish on Robinhood over the year at all. They execute better than anybody in fintech, but they're valued kind of like that now. They're going to have a phenomenal Q4, by the way. But yeah, PayPal, I think that there's just a lot less expected. Like analysts, you look at what analysts are expecting and everything, and it's not difficult numbers. You look at the guidance that PayPal has given, and it's very, very conservative. And Jamie Miller, in the middle of Q4, was at a financial conference, and she was asked about Q4, and she said, "Oh yeah, we're very happy and very comfortable with what we projected for Q4." Usually that's code for we're going to beat it again, guys. We're going to beat it a lot. And I expect that that's going to be the case. Margins will continue to inflect. That top revenue number might be a miss just because they're offsetting that with some higher margin. But the bottom line number, the actual net profitability, the free cash flow, are going to be just phenomenal.
Gotcha. So what I want to do is I want to show you, if you allow me to present, I want to show you. So this is where I landed after last year. So these are I call them the elite 8, if you will. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these 5 right here, maybe I could make these a little bit bigger.
And by the way, guys, look at that portfolio size. This isn't his whole portfolio. TJ's a well. I'm a minnow. He is an absolute well. So
it's all good. It's all good. So check it out. So right here, you see those 5 right there?
Yes.
Those are the investments, and these right here are the trades, the swing trades.
What's that?
Hood is still in the swing trade category, just because I can't get it big enough yet, the position, because I didn't load up whenever I had an opportunity. And I'll put it on total return. This thing is they've printed. The only one that I'm losing on right now is Marathon because it's a swing trade, and Chris Patel got me all excited. Already made 7 figures on this stock in the past, and I was so over it. I'm not a fan of the CEO, but
Yeah.
Chris Patel. What do you call it? Orange pilled you or whatever that term is. Yeah, people use Chris Patel.
Yes.
He
I
Patel.
mean, like they have a big hodl, but yeah, I invested in Marathon like back in 2021 and did well with it, but I'd like long term. I mean, you're not in them like for well. Actually, I think you like Riot long term, right? You've been to
Yeah,
their
no, you're
facility.
right. It's my horse because I
Yeah,
understand what they're trying to do for the next 3 to 5 years. I don't think they understand what they're trying to do past that because this is a very fluid situation. But with Marathon, they've done so many pivots, and I just can't follow it. I mean, I just can't follow it. There's so many storylines, but they're a mover and a shaker. So it's one of those things. And luckily the position's not too big yet. But anyway, so my thing is this. If you're going to be in the top 5, you got to be able to get to the 7-figure mark.
oh yeah.
And I just haven't been able to get PayPal there. And I feel like I've misplayed PayPal here a little bit because of my nemesis, which is covered calls.
Yeah.
So I've had issues here. I've got some 93 calls that are expiring in a couple of weeks. I think those might be fine. When are earnings, by the way?
I think it's later than that. Usually it's that last week of. Let's see. I don't know if they've announced it yet. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing that. Oh no, that's Q4 earnings. Nope. Yeah, if someone knows in the comments, I don't think they've announced that yet. They should have by now, though. Usually that's like 28th, 29th. Let's see, where does that fall? I would say it's probably the 28th. Typically, they like to do Tuesday mornings, so that would fall usually where they would do earnings, but I don't see it. Maybe they haven't announced it quite yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, those will be.
So here's my dilemma, Roy. So let's play a game called non-financial advice, okay? So PayPal does not pay a dividend, and PayPal's premiums aren't that good. So my dilemma has been to try to become more capital efficient in 2025. So I've considered buying more of these guys right here, these 75 long calls for June, and let PayPal continue to buy back the float and do what they do, and then get very, very aggressive with the covered calls and potentially let these shares get called away and get back into cash in June, have a crap load of cash, and then just maybe run the poor man covered call campaign against these long calls because I feel like I could get more alpha somewhere else.
Yeah.
Versus the cover call premiums because I bought these long calls recently and then I ran this the poor man cover call campaign against those long calls, and on 25 contracts, dude. I mean, this was a roll, mind you, but it just doesn't pay that much. You know what I mean? Like you got to tie up a lot of capital and you don't get a lot. And maybe I feel like I'm already spoiled because of the miners, like the miners give you like that 100% annualized return, and it becomes I don't know what the word is, addicting or addictive. Because my wife's always, she's a grad, so she's always like correcting my language.
Yeah, bull markets will spoil you. I think PayPal went up 40-something% this last year, which is great, but a lot of people are like only 40%. I was like, dude, I'll take 40% any day. But no, the premiums are really low, and so here's where I see PayPal. Like I own shares. And I also own Leaps. There's only 2 stocks in my entire portfolio that I have Leaps. All the rest is just equity. When I buy those long-term options is in a name that I see that's very under. No, well, actually, I guess 3. I have SoFi, but so yeah, just SoFi, Nubank now. That's a newer one as far as Leaps because it's just gone down so much. And then a PayPal, and the PayPal ones just seem like easy money to me. It's not financial advice. It's just what I'm doing. Where I'll buy some shares and I'll buy some Leaps as well. And I'll do them not quite as conservatively and deep in the money as your like $50 one. I don't know when you bought that, but I'm sure it was a while ago.
I bought these on, it should tell you. Let me see if I can dig a little bit here.
But it wasn't when PayPal was near 90. I'm buying 90.
I bought these on I bought, yeah, so it was
Oh yeah,
tranches, right? So I bought these on May the 29th and then on June the 10th. So
that's
I didn't
yeah.
get such a good deal on May the 29th, and then PayPal tanked a little bit, and I got a better deal on the second 50. I got those for 17.35.
Yeah.
Um,
So
those have done very well, but I've sold covered calls against those already at 80, and I
yeah.
keep kicking the can down the road. The idea was that it doesn't matter because I'll just exercise these long calls, in 8 or 9 months whenever a lot of that extrinsic value burns out. But then I just started doing math one day, and I was like, well, maybe I'm better off buying more leaps at 75 and then just let the damn shares get called away, and or just close the covered call and immediately close out these long calls here or whatever, or run these out, and then I can just exercise these shares later. Then I'll have that $50 average plus whatever I paid be like about $67-$70 average.
Yeah, I think me personally, I've been buying recently more leaps for PayPal than shares. I've not bought in a few weeks, but that's what I've been doing because I see the same thing. When you have a company that you have a high conviction in, which I do for PayPal, and you see that as fundamentally undervalued. You see that it's well led. You see what's happening in the future as well, and like anything can happen as far as a macro, but what PayPal is actually doing and building, and it's phenomenal. And then you see at the same time, which is frustrating when you're selling options, but you see that the IV is very, very low. So those are relatively cheap options. I
Yeah.
like to load up on leaps. And so that's what I've been doing with PayPal. That's what I did before with SoFi when it was trading the $6 and $7. I loaded up probably more than was responsible, honestly. Now it's at 15, so it's pretty good. And then Nubank now. Like those are the only names. Like I have high conviction, like I said, in Robinhood and Palantir over the long term. But I'm not, and HIMS as well. I'm not touching long-term calls on those. So yeah, I think that that's a good strategy, especially because the risks. There is a little bit more risk with poor man's covered calls, but you know how to do them. You know how to play them. If anyone is listening and watching, be very careful on those. Watch and follow TJ. By the way, TJ, we got a little more time that we're going to talk here, but where can people find you and track you down to learn more about wheeling and your strategy?
So I'm just TJ the Wheel Deal, and then I'm the same one on Twitter. And I guess the one thing I would say that I have a moat, if you will, is that I feel like I'm the only bigger wheeler, I would say, that wheels live. I trade live. I don't just sit here and tell you how great I was. Like you'll see me win and lose live and in color. I crash and burn sometimes because I'm a human being and I make mistakes. I make a lot of them, but I'm pretty good at rescuing bad plays, and I'm pretty good under pressure. Like
Manufacturing that win.
That is the thing that I know how to be calm, and I think it's because I played poker for so long that I've just seen bank rolls go up, down, up, down, up, down. So I don't freak out that much, and I'm just like, okay, cool. What's my time horizon? Is my time horizon 2 months? I'm stressed out. Is my time horizon 3, 5, 10 years? Then I'm like, we got time. It's okay. It's okay. And I always maintain a level head, but I don't like people to follow me into trades. When I was like early on in the journey, it was fun, but now I feel like there's a lot more responsibility because as the account gets bigger, I just don't want them to do something that could potentially put them in a situation that could ruin their lives financially. And if I lose, some money on a trade, it's not really going to change anything. I'll just move on to the next one. So I do feel that sense of responsibility, if that makes sense. So I always tell people now that if you want to accumulate wealth in the stock market, do what everybody did, myself included. Just invest a little bit at a time in an ETF and get comfortable with that. And then once you really learn how to dissect stocks the way that Roy knows how to do this, he knows how to research this stuff way more than I do. That's whenever you can start picking individual equities, because individual equities, dude, that's a tough game.
Yeah.
Like that is a tough game. And I don't know what the percentages are. I don't know what the stats. I'm not a nerd like Tanner and all those guys, but I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to put $100 bill here and say that probably less than 25% of traders beat the S&P 500 on a regular basis.
Yeah. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I agree. Like if somebody's looking and wanting to look at wheeling or maybe paper trade it, figure out how to do that. I love that you're very transparent with like, some wheelers are like, I get it right all the time and I never make
There's no
mistakes and I get
way, dude. I
300%
just lost
per
six
year.
figures on MSTX, bro.
Yeah.
There's no
It's
way. There's
don't
no
listen
way
to
you get it
others.
right all the time.
When you hear somebody say, that they can generate 25% cash flow from it, that's possible. That's reasonable. 50%, you're doing some risky stuff. 100%,
Yeah.
I don't know what
And
you're doing.
even my 25% is taking on abnormal amounts of risk from the
Yes.
standpoint that yes, it's way out of the money. But let's just say Riot dips to like $8. I'm having to roll some covered calls probably 60, 90 days and having losers on the books a lot longer than you guys are probably comfortable with. Whereas I'm also okay taking ownership of another 50,000 shares in the portfolio. Because I have a goal to get to 250,000 shares of SoFi and 250,000 shares of Riot. And I want to be the guy that makes a crap load of money on two stocks that a lot of people weren't even willing to touch. And then whenever the book is finished, well, that helps me sell a bunch of copies, right? So I have a strategy behind it from a business perspective as well. But dude, SoFi is like, I don't even want to show the position here because it's just embarrassing now the way that one's worked out. But I took a lot of heat, dude. I thought, oh my God, it's so irresponsible. I can't believe that you're in it. And I'm like, I can't believe that you're not.
So February 4th is the earnings date. Appreciate you sharing that, Anthony and Sagi. I wanted to share one more thing on PayPal that this is something I've not written about yet. It's an article I just saw today. It may have just come out. Yeah, it just came out today. A lot of people buy these days on mobile phone, and PayPal, this is an article that came out on eMarketer, just dominates that market.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Top 10 mobile payment apps systems U.S. adults typically use, and this is November survey. PayPal is 40%. Their competitor Venmo is 9. Wait a minute. They own Venmo. So you add these two together, they have 60% of the mobile payment market out of the top 10. I mean, it'd be less than, maybe it's half. In the U.S., which is the most important market in the world. There's some other notes here. And one of the things that makes it that very exciting is that this came out. Let me remove that and share. I thought I shared the window. Little new to this still. There we go. Add to the stage here. All right. No, that's still the same thing. All right. Let me represent here. Stop screen. My apologies. We'll share the whole window right here. There we go. All right. So this came out on Adobe Analytics, which I thought was really interesting. So mobile revenue share during the holiday season. You can see in 2023, it just barely became half of the revenue. 2022, it was a little bit under. 2024, it's a little over half. And they expect that continue to climb in the next maybe 3 years. It'll hit 60%. Like 8 or 9 years down the road, it might be 75% of people are using mobile experience to actually buy during the holiday season. Why does that matter? Well, we see PayPal just absolutely dominates with Venmo the mobile market here in the US. And the interesting thing is conversion rate from desktop versus mobile. This is the downside for merchants. Desktop is here in this light blue color. Mobile is in purple, and these are different holiday days. But you can see every single one of those a conversion when somebody actually goes and is shopping around for that product, but then they don't actually pay for that. That's not a conversion. But the conversion is much higher for desktop. Some of that is just a consumer and the type of consumer that uses mobile, but some of it is also the technology. And so one of the comments that I thought was really interesting in that press conference, or that conference rather, that Jamie Miller was part of, is they had said that in their newest integration that only 5% of merchants are using right now, but they're pushing that out more and more. Those using it see upwards of 400 basis points. That's 4% of uplift in conversion, and it performs even better in mobile than online. Well, that's not the normal at all. Usually, it's you have your online performing way better than mobile, and so PayPal with their newer tech stack actually sees higher conversion for mobile, and they already dominate that market. and demographics are their friend. And so I think that's going to translate to some really, really surprising and good numbers for Q4. Maybe not quite as high revenue as I still think they're going to beat on revenue. I don't think that's going to smash like all the other numbers. And I think their guidance is going to be pretty good, even though they're going to be cautious on how they factor it in. So yeah, I see PayPal as like pretty easy money. I still think it's going to hit an all-time high in the next 5 years.
But how did you feel about their last earnings? Because I felt like their last earnings was like a C plus B minus type.
It was easily their worst earnings of the year. If we look from Q4, which was phenomenal, Q1, which was even better, Q2 was really good. Q3, it was good but not great. I'd give it like a B, probably a B, B minus from my expectations. I wasn't expecting to see top line revenue slow down that much, and the reason why it did is they're having these conversations with merchants using Braintree, and they say, hey, rather than do 80% of your volume with Braintree and us getting very little margins and maybe even losing money, how about you take that back and you just do 60% of your processing through Braintree, but we get a little higher take rate. And so that means revenue from some of those major companies is going to be a little bit less. And so they're expecting mid to low single digit revenue growth. But the bottom line, like the actual EPS, the actual free cash flow, like those are continuing to climb because the take rates and the margin are continuing to improve. So I would say it wasn't amazing earnings, but it was decent. I think Q4 is going to be better than that. Especially now that the tough thing is when you're not expecting that, either an analyst, I don't think we're either, it catches you off guard and you're like, oh man, it's terrible. And that was kind of one of the issues, although it's really just the analyst's fault for Q1 when Alex Chriss said, hey, when we do our EPS, we're now not going to just magically subtract away stock-based compensation like a lot of other names. We're going to integrate that in there. So our EPS, our GAAP EPS and our non-GAAP EPS are going to be relatively close, and we'll have very, very specific reasons why that is. So as a result, analysts forgot that, missed that, didn't see that, even though they said it many, many times in their previous earnings. And so even today, if you look at Google, if you look at Yahoo Finance, it looks like that they missed in Q1. Well, they didn't. They beat. But analysts just they forgot that was happening. So surprises of that kind are not real fun. I don't think that there's going to be anything like that in Q4. So let's look at some questions, and I'll go ahead and go up to the top and scroll down. And I think some of these are for you too, TJ.
Okay, I'm scrolling as well.
Let's see. Some Rocket Lab love too. Are you in Rocket Lab at all?
I have 20,000 shares at under $4. Thanks to shout out to Maddie Capital and Maddie Money and Vince. Vince is bullish. Yeah, and I never sold a covered call on them because the premium sucks. So I'm thankful for that. So they just shot up, and I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything with them. I do have itchy trigger fingers to sell them because I don't know much about the company, and I'm not. I'm excited for the win, but I'm not like I don't know why I'm not interested in the space, like pun intended. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever the SpaceX caught that rocket or booster or whatever,
yeah,
dude, my house shook because we're close. And I was like, dude, you could have, one of my cool paintings or whatever, I was irritated by it. versus like, oh my God, something amazing just happened. And I don't know why, dude. I don't know why I'm such a buzzkill about that space. Like, it's such amazing stuff that they do, but I don't get excited about it.
Yeah, I'm not quite as excited as, many of the major holders there. But funny thing is, Matt just kept pestering me to look into Rocket Lab, and I finally did. And that was so I've switched my strategy now with one exception of I believe this is Drunken Miller to invest then investigate. So you look at a company a little bit, but you're like, okay, it's interesting, and maybe you buy a small position. So small position for you is like 10,000 Rocket Lab shares. For me, that might be 500 or or 200 or whatever. But whatever is a small position, and then that actually captures your attention. You investigate, and that way, if it keeps running, maybe you buy more because it's still undervalued. So I investigated first. I didn't invest. It ran to like $7. I'm like, well, maybe it'll come back a little bit. Then it went to 9. I'm like, well, maybe it'll come back to 7. And I mean, it's like in the 20s now. And I'm like, because I saw the
I think it was very clear. I feel like I got a notification. It's in a different account. And I feel like I got a notification that it touched 30 or something, unless I was daydreaming.
I didn't see that, but I mean, I pulled it off my watch list because I'm like mad at myself because I had a faulty strategy in a bull market. I think invest and investigate is the way to go, at least for me. Need to do a Block versus PayPal episode. That would be a fun one. Maybe at some point I would need to dig into Block a little bit more. I know it decently well, but when you're not investing in a company and you're not really interested just because of the leadership, I'll still look at earnings. I'll still get headlines and see what some other bulls that are saying on Block, because those two do run well together. And I do think Block will be fine. I'm just a lot less excited about it because of leadership than PayPal. I think Alex Chriss really will go down as a phenomenal non-founder CEO, like almost a unicorn. I think that he has what it takes to really carry PayPal from the reputation of a dying dinosaur to a real innovator and leader in the fintech space. The scary thing is Jim Cramer is saying that too. So I'm like, man, just be quiet. Just stop. Let's see. Yep, going through the questions now. I love honey on chicken.
Dude, I'm like so late to this party. I'm reading the comments. Like, did this apparently this is not like a new thing that my wife introduced me to. I thought like she was breaking ground over
here. Yeah, there's a couple of them. So, wow, you guys. And it's apparently at a restaurant down there too. So okay, yeah. Honey was stealing creator affiliate commission, super shady. I mean, like that needs to be done. That needs to be changed. I say that as an investor. I don't care about them getting money at all costs. Like that, it's not right. Now, if they actually apply a coupon and they find something better for that, by all means, take that referral code. But otherwise, don't do that. That's just not right.
I'm looking, dude. I don't really see anything that you missed. I have a question for you though.
Sure.
You're new to YouTube as far as your own channel, but you've been you've been doing this as long as I have almost. How did it feel to interview Vlad?
Really good.
Because I had the CEO of Riot on my channel, and I'd already met him personally a couple of times.
Yeah.
But whenever he actually came on my little channel, took time out of his life to come on my little channel, it was like, I was actually nervous to come on my channel for the first time, aside from when I did the seminar for everybody, because I was like, my ADHD LMNOP under control, and I'm gonna do the slideshow and show these people how to make money, right? And that was the only other time that I've been semi-nervous to do a podcast, if you will.
Yeah, it was. I think I would have been nervous. I was a little bit beforehand, but actually talking to them, I wasn't. But it was my first time doing that kind of interview, and so like I'm always my harshest critic, and so I've rewatched that as I was editing it, and a couple other times. Like, there's a lot of ways I can improve, a lot of ways, but it was very comfortable for me just because I probably talked to Vlad like for 5 hours before, or maybe including that, and he's very approachable. I could ask him literally anything. Now, legal did ask me to remove it, just a couple small things. It was maybe like a minute worth of stuff, all the juicy stuff, right? No, just kidding. But no, he made it really easy just because he's very approachable. He's, I have in my mind, and I'm sure multiple billionaires, like he's the only one that I know, personally. And he just seems like a regular guy, like brilliant, but just like very approachable, down to earth. Great person. Really, I have a lot of respect for him. I wouldn't interview him otherwise. I'm hoping to interview Alex Chriss. I reached out before, and now they're in the quiet period, so it's not going to happen. But maybe in the next quarter or two. And that one, I'll be probably more nervous for, just because I've not, other than just some DMs, I've not talked to him at all. So that'll be different, and we look exactly the same, so it'll be confusing as far as like who is who. So maybe he'll ask me questions.
Who's the rich one?
But no, I'm hoping to get to talk to him next. And there's a couple others that are not CEOs, but are people that I'd love to interview from a couple other companies that I hold. We'll have to see if that turns out. I expect that I'll never be able to interview anyone from SoFi ever. I mean, even Tanner and Chris and Tevis can't get those guys. So
Yeah, I really think that SoFi is dropping the ball on that because this is eventually going to be, it is becoming the new media. And I feel like Robinhood understood that. I feel like Palantir is understanding that. Riot is certainly understanding that. A lot of the Bitcoin miners understand that. And this is where the eyes are. I mean, if you go look at like CNBC stuff, or you be like let's say Riot puts out a video or Palantir puts out a video, and you look at the views, and then you go look at something on a Mitch channel or like one of the big YouTubers, like really big YouTubers, they get a lot more traction than the stuff coming out of the regular, just from the actual company's channels. And it's this is where the eyes are. I mean, I'm looking here on your deal here. It's a Tuesday night, dude, and there's 89 people taking time out of their lives to spend with you.
And thank you guys.
That is, that's amazing. But that's, just goes to show the value that you're giving your subscriber base here. So that's good on you, Roy. And those of y'all that don't know, I met Roy. He added 5 pounds to my life, introducing me to a snack.
You were fellow Texans, so
dude, it's awesome.
So Julie has a couple of questions that are somewhat related. So she asked, "Is Adyen, that's Adyen, point of sale system like Zettle? That's the little terminal where you can swipe your card." It's not. Adyen is mostly just on the back end, the payment service providers. So you don't actually, it's a white label technology. And so you'll go to a checkout system and you'll never know you're using Adyen or Stripe or Braintree. They're designed for the consumer to basically work identically. That is a commodity. Adyen's is probably the best in class, even better than Braintree. I think Braintree has improved a lot though. And then Julie also mentioned Zettle is PayPal's point of sale for small business. This is one of those integrations or those acquisitions under Schulman where they're like, hey, this is smart. We're a payment company. Let's get these so that they can be in-person payments. And then they never did anything with them. I've seen one Zettle terminal, and I was like, wow, they do exist. They're more common in Europe, from what I understand, but no, I'm hoping that maybe that'll change over time. But that's one of those Dan Schulman acquisitions. So, and Julie says it right here, their point of sale has been a limiting factor. It'd be good to have that change. Yeah, I think part of that is the omni-channel payments, the Will Ferrell commercial, the pay everywhere, that they can do the tap to pay now that Apple has been forced to and kind of willing also open up that NFC chip. So you can do the tap to pay. Thank you for that. My own shadow is apparently afraid of me. And let's see, where will PayPal be placing the ads? If most interactions are in the checkout flow, I would assume they don't want to interrupt the ads. Have you seen where they're being placed? So good question. Yes. So PayPal's guest checkout system, Fastlane, is designed to be non-invasive, that they don't want to interrupt anything that the merchant is using. There's some merchants, like Uber, that have a very specific thing or way that they want their checkout to look. And Fastlane allows that to happen. And so that the ads are never there at all. Instead, it's two places. So one is advanced offers. And so these are, just like traditional standard ads. You might see one, on a website. You might see one when you're playing a mobile game. You might see one on your email that has an offer for you based on cookies. And you'll click on that and it'll give you, whatever off that you want. The other place that you'll see that, of course, all the time is in the PayPal app itself. It has a lot of those offers. Some are tailored specific to you. Some are just for everybody, but it's 5, 10, 15% off at Walmart or I can't, there's a bunch of them out there. So, but the other place is those smart receipts. And so that's when somebody buys something, checking out using PayPal or Venmo in this case, you have your receipt, 40-something% of people open it up. And it's like, oh, you bought some, like I said, we'll use weights. So you bought some weights and maybe you need a lifting band or a coupon for some athletic clothes. And so they'll, based on their algorithm and based on what they know, there's this great headline that came out when PayPal announced this, was that PayPal knows your pant size and how to monetize it or something like that. And they do. That's a level of detail that PayPal knows. Not everybody loves that, but I like targeted ads. I don't like, I get ads all the time because I've researched Hims for hair loss, and I'm like, it's fine. Skincare, I mean, maybe I need a little bit there, but I'm okay. And other related Hims products that like ED stuff, I'm like, I don't like non-targeted ads. I want things that are actually specific for me. Maybe I'll buy it, maybe I won't, but things that I'll never touch, like no, I don't want to see that at all. Um, so yeah, that's where they're being placed. Yep, we answered that. Payment service. PayPal should buy Bitcoin. What do you think about that? There's some companies that like Block that are putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet and just buying
Yeah.
some. Do you like that?
A lot of the Bitcoin miners are growing their HODL, like they're doing the notes, kind of like MicroStrategy. So they're doing the convertibles to just buy Bitcoin at market prices, even though they can mine it for like 40 cents on the dollar. So it's one of those things. Buying it outright because you think it's going to go up in value. I mean, if you have the cash just sitting there, I mean, I don't understand why a lot of those companies aren't maybe not just buying Bitcoin, but just like, why don't they have like some sort of an investing arm that's not going out there and using all their cash flow to generate more alpha versus just trying to get 3 or 4% on a bond or whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand that. Like, I've never understood, like, you can't go find 3 or 4 nerds and go sell some damn covered calls on something.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy.
So you make it look easy. I would say most wheelers that I know that really do a lot of wheeling. Like I do a little bit, but it's very cautious. It's not a very small percentage of my portfolio is an actual wheel strategy, and right now I'm wheeling GameStop, which is fun. But what I wheel, and also Bitcoin miners. But it's not a large position. It's less than 10% of my portfolio. But most wheelers might be up to 6 figures. Some are 7 figures. I don't know any other 8-figure wheelers because it gets increasingly harder to do and harder to manage that capital. And you have to be very, very disciplined at that point. And so what you're doing, TJ.
I think that's the misnomer, the disconnect that a lot of people have that think they know me is I don't think I'm a wheeler. I'm an investor who learned how to sell options on his favorite stocks because I'm playing a game called lower my adjusted cost basis to 0. On a side note, I have what's it called? The golf thing from SoFi? T something TG or something.
TGI.
Huh?
I think it's TGI, TGA.
Something. TGO, Golf League, baby. Help me out in the chat. Dude, I have it on the background because I have a TV in the office. And my goodness, dude, SoFi is everywhere on this thing. TGL.
Yeah, I'm not a golfer, but I've seen a couple of screenshots and I've heard, it's all over. That's good.
So I just saw Rory McIlroy and it was like a thing, and it was like Golf Reimagined or whatever. It's like the world's largest golf simulator. I don't know. It just seems like they're making it. It's like Top Golf on steroids. I guess I'm not sure. Like because Top Golf is fun, right? Like if you're a hacker, you want to go out there. It's like bowling, but for golf.
Yeah. That was amazing, honestly, the technology that they have there. So, but yeah, as far as myself, like Bitcoin, I have no problem with them buying it and holding it themselves. If they don't, that's okay too. But yeah, for them, for Robinhood, like those sort of things make sense. They're in fintech, they're in their payment systems, and so having some of that or some exposure to that, that's fine. I don't know that they'll go after it as aggressively as Block. Block, it makes a lot of sense for them too, to their credit, and of course, miners, like they should absolutely be hodling it. I'm glad that there's not many companies that are emulating MasterStrategy. I think that's just a disaster waiting to happen at some point. But I mean, I could be wrong. Michael Saylor's been right time and time again. We'll see. So
one last question, because I gotta go play husband. Anything in the M&A that's caught your attention or that you've been reading about? Because I feel like everybody always talks about who could acquire PayPal, and I'm like, well, who could PayPal acquire? Because they're not exactly a mom and pop company themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They acquire 3 or 4 pretty decent sized companies. Now all of a sudden, PayPal jumps a level up the rung, the ladder.
I don't think that they're going to acquire anybody over the next year at least, and I don't know who that they might be interested in acquiring after that. They have so much in-house that they need to just get right and scale. Adding an acquisition to that, I think, would be a mistake. Alex Chris is also trying to write the culture, and he's done a lot of good work on that for PayPal. But you don't want to. It's kind of like if you and your family are just kind of all over the place and fighting and arguing, and your schedules are just chaotic. Invite a couple of exchange students to live with you for a year. That's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
So it's a little early for that. And the company is undervalued enough. I think that they can really continue to double down on those buybacks. So I'd rather they don't.
So what do you think fair market value? Because Alpha Spread has them at fair market value based on the parameters that I have set for my intrinsic value calculation, right at 80. And I'm like, I always thought that it could go fairly easily to 100, 125. Then after that, I think they got to really justify those numbers, because those multiples are not going to be rewarded the way that they used, or rewarded just on a good story. Like, I think that we're just not in that market anymore. And I think that, Palantir is having that reality check moment right now.
Yeah.
Where it's like the euphoria is going to take you so far, but at some point the numbers have to substantiate that story. Same with my beloved Tesla, my favorite stock in the entire market.
Based on their free cash flow yield and peers, I had them at around 130. It's 125, 130. I had them a little bit higher prior to Q3. I didn't like the revenue slowdown, the top line, even though it's not the most important number. They weren't the greatest earnings they've ever had. I understand why they had it the way that it is. It's like, okay, maybe it's not going to accelerate quite as fast as I thought. Plus, Fastlane, it was only out even just part of a month, but it didn't scale quite as fast as I thought it had. And they're not going to monetize much of it for 2025. So, these things are going to take time to play out. This is a long game. This isn't a, buy options that are way out of the money for 3 months out.
Right.
That's probably not going to work out unless your goal is to lose money. So don't do that, please. But no, I think that they're positioned well. And this question kind of goes with that. Carl is asking 65 cost basis. That's the only stock staving your portfolio. Do you see it going up after earnings? Anything can happen on earnings. They can have the best earnings in the world and it still go down. But I think Honey is a non-issue. I really do. It will not be in the headlines, after the next couple of Mega Lag videos. And I don't see an association in most people's mind of PayPal is bad and I'm going to stop using it no matter what, which it's hard to do because you also have Venmo and Braintree. It's just hey, stop using Honey. And Honey was just never a big part of the bull case. I think I saw one other question. Where is it? Lots of comments, guys. Appreciate it. Pant size. That's invasion of privacy. I mean, that's and welcome to the internet, right? Boy, a lot of questions, guys. All right, we'll leave it with that one, a comment instead. Brilliant minds you two have. Thank you, Julie. Thank you guys all for tuning in. This has been PayPal Monthly, so we'll do another of these. Maybe I'll invite TJ to see if you'd like to come on at that point, but maybe sometime after Q4, I'll do a separate Q4 video in the course of guidance for the next year.
Hey, how much money do I need to make on SoFi before I can come on SoFi Weekly?
It's got to be at least 8 figures. So, no, just kidding. if you get to interview anyone from SoFi, like you're on there, and you actually
Anthony Noto has no idea who I am, bro.
We're all kicked off, and you will become SoFi Weekly at that point. No, would you like to come on SoFi Weekly? Because we'd love to have you
one day. Yeah, I was really surprised when I went to the headquarters at Riot. Like Jason knew who I was right away. It kind of like caught me off guard, and I was like, what? And my wife was with me, and she's like, why would he know you? And I'm like, wait, you have the little channel, but I really don't know, baby. And it was just one of those things, but it makes you realize the power of this little thing here, this YouTube deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's powerful. A lot of companies realize it, not all. I'm glad PayPal does at least somewhat, more than under prior leaders. Riot's doing well, Robinhood, Palantir certainly too, and hopefully they all go to the moon. TJ, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always fun, man. We'll have to get together in real life too at some point.
Dude, I wish you all the best, man. I hope you keep growing this thing. I can't wait to see you at 10, 20, 30,000 subscribers and really, really turn into a monster on YouTube.
I appreciate that. And thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, happy investing.